This weekend's historic address in Arnhem Land by the Prime Minister, which has laid down a very basic plan for an Indigenous voice to Parliament, has been described today by various journalists as emotional, inspiring, positive, and even courageous. The Nine newspaper editorials say the answer must be yes. And of course, there are some who say if you question the concept, you only want to sabotage it. Well, I prefer to reserve my democratic right to express an opinion, if I may, irrespective of some woke rule on this, that there can only be one opinion. Anyone who says that should go and live in Russia or maybe North Korea. What a ridiculous proposition. As far as ceremonies go, in the red dirt and in the mild winter of the Northern Territory, coupled with all the Indigenous art and dancing, it was an event for closeness between black and white Australians. And at least now we also have some detail about what may go ahead in this unprecedented process, such as the set of suggested principles, which will be included in our Constitution if the Prime Minister has his way. And of course, the question we're likely to face at this referendum.
I would like us to present the Australian people with the clearest possible referendum question. We should consider asking our fellow Australians something as simple but something as clear as this. Do you support an alteration to the Constitution that establishes an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice? A straightforward proposition, a simple principle, a question from the heart.
Now, irrespective of today's glowing media backing for such a new adjunct to our Parliament and our Constitution, and all those well-written words and the hand-holding in the sand in Arnhem Land, the Prime Minister is dead right when he says this will be a high hurdle to clear. It sure will be. Referenda in this country have had very little success. Only 8 out of 44 referendums have been approved since Federation. 8 out of 44. That's just an 18.2% success rate. We are not, as a nation of people, prone to agreeing to significant change. But the Prime Minister remains hopeful.
Do you think you'll win the support of the Australian public now?
Well, my speech speaks for itself. So I'm hoping to get the support. This is an important moment for the Australian people, and I'm very confident that the Australian people will demonstrate the generosity that they demonstrate every day when they care about fairness. And that's what this is about, fairness and respect.
Now, despite what Anthony Albanese argues, I don't think providing fewer details, which is what he's very much behind, will help the affirmative cause at all. Australians have become way too cynical to trust their government, any government. The fact is, too, that unless you have the full support of the other side of the political spectrum, currently the coalition, it will never pass anyway. In attendance at yesterday's announcement was opposition Indigenous spokesman Julian Lewis. While not rejecting a voice to Parliament, he too is demanding more detail.
Given we're talking about the Constitution, it's really important that Australians understand what it is that is being proposed by the voice, so who will serve on it, how they'll be chosen, what it will do, and how will it affect people in Indigenous communities in a positive way to address some of the issues in those communities.
Now, if someone says to you, you shouldn't be asking those questions, that's racist. You should just say yes, tell them to go and jump. Because there are concerns from ordinary Australians about this concept. Concerns I was able to gauge this weekend when I threw the topic open to my radio audience on 2GB.
Every time I hear some kind of leader, no disrespect to any of them, get up and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, they're all going to do wonderful things in their mind.
Yeah, we just changed the anthem to say that we are one, and we're not.
It just gets my blood boiling. It sounds like another bomb from Anthony Albanese.
61 years I am, and I haven't seen too much change. So Jacinda, lovely girl, beautiful girl, if you're out there, stop having a party, stop talking the talk, get them feet moving, they're not painted on.
Instead of making real change, like you pointed out, in the Indigenous community, walk the walk and let's get on with the job.
Now, I've got to say, I was bombarded by opinions on this topic, and I can summarise these concerns this way. People are questioning how the government will use this advisory body, what issues will come before it, and which circumstances will they get a chance to consider those issues? What kind of Indigenous people, more importantly, will be selected on the panel? Will they be elders from the front line of communities or celebrity name academics from the inner city? That's important. Why are we holding a referendum as well on the voice next year, instead of waiting for the next federal election maybe, which might save us from a near $500 million bill, which is what these things cost? And would the cost of such a referendum not be better spent on getting more health, education and legal professionals inside Indigenous communities right across the country to continue the aim of closing the gap? All pertinent questions that Australians should not be bullied into disowning. We should be allowed to express our concerns. And the overwhelming question of principle I fielded this weekend in calls, emails and text messages was, why should the Indigenous community have its own separate arm of the Parliament anyway? Especially seeing that right now, the Indigenous community is overrepresented in the Parliament with 11 Indigenous MPs in Canberra, which is brilliant. It is great. Is it more about symbolism again? Do we really have to go down the symbol path and less about making a difference on the ground? Well, many Australians I've spoken to this weekend fear that this is certainly the case. Indigenous Australians have a voice. They have a strong parliamentary voice, stronger than ever right now. They have a loud voice as a minority group, we know that, and some very eloquent and intelligent leaders. We've also got a Federal Minister for Indigenous Affairs. We've got a whole crew of Indigenous ministers at state and territory level as well. Will a voice to Parliament stop the division in this country? Will it stop the annual protest? Will it ease the gap between black and white? If someone can argue that it may do so, well, I would have thought a constitutional change like that is well worth considering. But right now, I don't see much but another gesture of virtue signalling.